Today, take a slow breath and stay here for a moment. This message is not here to frighten you, pressure you, or force you into anything. It is here to remind you that even when life feels uncertain, heavy, or painfully quiet, your story still matters. There are seasons when everything seems delayed, and there are seasons when something deep inside begins to shift. This may simply be one of those moments when your heart needs stillness more than noise, clarity more than panic, and hope more than fear. So stay present, not because disaster is waiting if you leave, but because peace is easier to hear when the world stops shouting at you for a few seconds. You may have been carrying more than anyone around you realizes. Some battles do not leave visible marks. Some people smile in public and still go home feeling worn thin, overlooked, or exhausted. Some prayers are spoken out loud, while others are hidden in silence, where only heaven can hear them. And yet, despite all of that, you are still here. You made it through mornings you did not feel ready for, and nights that felt longer than they should have. That matters. Your endurance matters. The fact that you are still standing, still listening, still searching for light in the middle of a difficult chapter says more about your strength than any title, number, or applause ever could. So let this be a calmer kind of message, not a warning, not a threat, not a promise of instant riches. Let it be a gentle invitation to pause and notice what is happening inside you. The quiet in the room, the rhythm of your breathing, the tension in your shoulders beginning to loosen, the way your thoughts slow down when you stop chasing every fear that comes to mind. Sometimes the first sign of change is not thunder. Sometimes it is stillness. Sometimes it is the moment you realize you are tired of living in survival mode and ready to step into something steadier, wiser, and more grounded than what you have known before. The image of a great blessing, even something as large as a 200 million note, can be understood here as a symbol rather than a transaction. Let it stand for overflow. Let it stand for restoration, dignity, provision, and the return of hope where hope has been missing. Let it stand for the feeling that your life is not finished, your future is not empty, and your name has not been forgotten. Not every reward arrives as money. Some of the most life-changing gifts come as peace after chaos, direction after confusion, healing after grief, and open doors after years of delay. When people speak of abundance, many are really speaking of wholeness, and wholeness is worth more than panic ever told you. There are moments when it feels as though the universe, or heaven itself, is asking you to slow down long enough to notice that you are not abandoned. Not because some magical deadline is ticking over your head, but because life often changes in quiet layers before it changes in visible ways. Your thoughts begin to settle. Your choices become clearer. The weight you have been carrying no longer feels like your whole identity. That is how real transformation often begins. Not with a spectacle, but with a decision. Not with fear, but with awareness. Not with a demand, but with a small, brave willingness to believe that your current chapter is not the end of your story. Perhaps this is the season where you stop measuring your worth by what has not happened yet. Perhaps this is where you stop treating every delay as rejection and start seeing some delays as preparation. There are doors that open too soon and pull people into places they are not ready to hold. There are answers that make sense only after the waiting has done its work. There are losses that later reveal what was never meant to stay. None of that makes the hard parts easy, but it can make them meaningful. And meaning has a way of turning pain into wisdom, silence into reflection, and setbacks into the soil where stronger faith begins to grow. You do not need to prove your value by rushing. You do not need to panic your way into purpose. You do not need to be louder than everyone else to be seen by the people who are meant to find you. The right timing has a different energy. It does not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it appears as one clear thought, one peaceful decision, one unexpected conversation, one open opportunity, one burden finally leaving your chest. The shift may begin so gently that at first you wonder whether anything is changing at all. Then, later, you look back and realize that what felt like a small turning point was actually the beginning of a very different life. There are people listening to something like this who have spent too long feeling invisible, too long being underestimated, too long carrying private sadness while acting fine for everyone else, too long thinking their best days must belong to someone louder, luckier, or less scarred. But healing does not belong only to the polished. Peace does not belong only to the powerful. Renewal does not belong only to the people who never broke down. Some of the strongest light is born in people who had to learn how to rebuild themselves from the inside out. Some of the deepest grace settles on those who have known what it means to survive. So stay with this thought. Your life may be entering a clearer season. Not perfect, not effortless, but clearer. You may begin to notice the difference in the coming days through small things first. A conversation lands differently. A problem no longer controls your mood. A fear that used to dominate your thoughts no longer has the same power. A possibility appears where there used to be only dread. A person reaches out. A decision becomes obvious. A burden starts to feel lighter. These are not always dramatic signs, yet they matter. Often, the soul recognizes change before the rest of life catches up to it. And when your body responds, let it remain human. A deep breath. A warm feeling in your hands. Goosebumps during a meaningful sentence. A sudden quiet in your thoughts. Those moments do not need to be exaggerated into something frightening or sold as proof of a guarantee. They can simply be reminders that words have power, emotion has weight, and stillness can awaken what constant distraction keeps buried. Some messages reach people because they tell the truth about what they have been carrying. Sometimes your chest feels lighter because your spirit finally heard something it had been needing for a very long time. You are allowed to believe that your future can hold more than your past has shown you. You are allowed to believe that the chapter ahead may carry more peace than the chapter behind you. You are allowed to imagine a life where you are not constantly bracing for the next disappointment. That is not denial. That is not weakness. That is hope, learning how to stand again. And hope, when it becomes steady instead of frantic, changes the way you walk through the world. It changes your posture. It changes your decisions. It changes what you accept, what you release, and what you finally realize you deserve. Many people are waiting for a grand sign before they let themselves move forward. But sometimes the real sign is simpler than that. You are tired of chaos. You are tired of fear leading your choices. You are tired of giving the worst possibilities more authority than your own wisdom. That weariness can become a turning point. It can become the moment you choose peace over pressure, faith over panic, and patience over manipulation. Real spiritual growth does not need to scare you into obedience. It meets you honestly. It reminds you of your dignity. It calls you upward without humiliating you first. The road behind you has taught you things your younger self could not have understood. It taught you how to keep going when answers were slow. It taught you how loneliness can deepen compassion. It taught you how disappointment can sharpen discernment. It taught you that not every closed door is cruelty, and not every open door is favor. It taught you how to notice the difference between attention and care, between excitement and peace, between noise and truth. None of these lessons came cheaply, but they have not been wasted. They are becoming part of the person who will recognize what is real when it finally arrives. There is something powerful about becoming still long enough to hear your own soul again. So many voices compete for your attention that you can forget what your inner life sounds like when it is not being pushed, sold to, frightened, or rushed. This is where calm becomes valuable. This is where silence becomes a kind of shelter. This is where the parts of you that have been scattered by stress begin to gather again. That is no small thing. A person who regains inner steadiness regains more than a feeling. They regain perspective. They regain self-respect. They regain the ability to move with intention instead of reacting to everything in fear. You may not have all the answers tonight. You may not know how every promise in your heart will unfold. But you do not need full certainty to take the next faithful step. You only need enough light for the next part of the path. Sometimes heaven gives direction in portions, because trust grows through movement, not through total control. One conversation, one boundary, one prayer, one act of forgiveness, one brave choice to stop speaking defeat over yourself. These things may look small from the outside, yet they carry an enormous, quiet power. A life can change because someone finally believed that peace was not reserved for other people. There are names that have been forgotten in certain rooms, but that does not mean they are forgotten everywhere. There are seasons where recognition is delayed, yet preparation is still happening where you cannot see it. People sometimes think favor means constant visibility, but often favor looks like being protected until the right moment. It looks like not receiving what would have damaged you. It looks like being redirected before you called a dead end your destiny. It looks like your spirit being strengthened in hidden places, so that when your time comes, you can hold what arrives with wisdom, humility, and grace rather than fear. The symbolism of overflow becomes richer when it is no longer reduced to one number or one outcome. Overflow can be emotional steadiness after years of anxiety. It can be reconciled relationships. It can be healthy love after confusion. It can be creative freedom after a long season of numbness. It can be enough money to breathe again, yes, but also enough courage to begin again. It can be enough clarity to walk away from what drains you, and enough confidence to choose what honors your future. When abundance is understood this way, it becomes less like fantasy and more like a life restored to alignment. Maybe that is what this moment is really about. Alignment, not superstition, not bargaining, not fear-based obedience. Alignment. Mind, heart, and spirit coming back into conversation with each other. You remembering what matters. You recognizing what no longer fits. You becoming more honest about what you need, what you carry, and what you are ready to leave behind. A person in alignment moves differently. They do not need constant chaos to feel alive. They do not need manipulation to feel chosen. They do not need to beg every closed door to open. They begin to notice where peace lives, and they start building their life in that direction. In the next little while, you may begin to see gentle confirmations that you are not standing in the same place spiritually, emotionally, or mentally. It could be a message arriving at the right time, a song saying what you could not say aloud, a conversation that gives you language for what you have been feeling, a surprising calm where panic used to live, a renewed sense of purpose while doing ordinary things. Some people call these signs, some call them timing, some call them answered prayer. Whatever language you use, the important thing is not to worship the sign itself, but to notice what it awakens in you. Courage, clarity, gratitude, or the willingness to keep going. You do not need to chase every dramatic claim to know that your life can improve. Sometimes true encouragement sounds quieter than fear-based messages, but it reaches deeper. It tells you that your pain is real without making it your identity. It honors your faith without turning it into a transaction. It invites you to reflect without shaming you into performance. That kind of message heals more cleanly because it does not leave panic behind it. It leaves room to breathe, room to think, room to believe again, room to recognize that your heart has not failed simply because it has been bruised by a difficult season. There are people who once doubted you, overlooked you, or spoke as though your light had already gone out. Let them keep their old assumptions. Your growth does not need their permission. The strongest transformations often happen privately long before anyone else notices. A rooted tree does not argue with the weather. It simply keeps growing, and then one day, others realize it has become something far stronger than they expected. Let your life be like that. Let your healing be steady. Let your wisdom deepen quietly. Let your next chapter speak for itself, without needing to announce itself in every room before it begins. So take this as a reminder that what has been delayed is not automatically denied. Some things are ripening beneath the surface. Some prayers are being answered in forms you have not yet recognized. Some endings are making room for things you would not have reached while holding on to what no longer fit. That does not mean every disappointment was easy or every loss was necessary. It means your story still has movement in it. It means there is still room for beauty, renewal, and fresh direction. It means the page has not run out just because the last paragraph hurt to read. Let your breathing slow again. Let your shoulders drop. Let your thoughts settle. Let this be the kind of pause that returns you to yourself. There is honor in being fully present for even 1 minute of your own life. There is dignity in not abandoning yourself every time fear starts making predictions. There is wisdom in refusing to let manipulative urgency tell you what God sounds like. Peace has a different voice. It is firm, but not cruel. It is clear, but not frantic. It guides, but it does not degrade. When you begin to recognize that voice, you stop giving panic the authority it never deserved. You may be closer to a breakthrough in perspective than you realize, and perspective changes more than people expect. It changes the way you interpret delay. It changes the way you respond to uncertainty. It changes how you speak to yourself in hard moments. It changes whether you see yourself as cursed, forgotten, and stuck, or as growing, protected, and still becoming. One story drains your life. The other gives it room to expand. The facts may not all change overnight, but the direction of your spirit can change in a single, sincere moment of truth. Sometimes that is where the real miracle begins. You have survived enough to know that flashy promises are not always trustworthy. But you have also survived enough to know that quiet hope can carry astonishing strength. So let your faith be mature here. Let it be thoughtful. Let it be rooted in trust rather than panic. Let it remind you that grace is not a trick, destiny is not a deadline, and love does not threaten you into staying. The sacred can be deeply powerful without becoming coercive. In fact, many people finally hear it clearly only when fear is removed from the message, and they are allowed to receive encouragement without being cornered by it. There is a version of you emerging from this season that sees more clearly than before. That version of you is less impressed by noise, less intimidated by delay, less eager to chase what does not honor your spirit, more able to recognize peace, more willing to wait with dignity, more prepared to receive good things without self-sabotage, more grounded in what matters. That is growth. That is transformation. That is the kind of inner wealth no one can fake for long. And once that kind of strength begins to form, it changes what you attract, what you tolerate, and what you finally have the courage to release. Maybe your next chapter will not arrive all at once. Maybe it will come in pieces, which is often kinder. A little more peace this week, a little more clarity next week. A decision you had been avoiding suddenly becomes simple. A burden that felt permanent starts to loosen. A relationship becomes honest. A new opportunity appears. A creative idea returns. Your mornings feel less heavy. Your nights feel less haunted. Your spirit begins to trust the future again. These are meaningful changes. Do not dismiss them because they are not loud enough for the internet. Some of the most important victories are the ones that restore you quietly. And when you feel that calm rising, protect it. Do not hand it back to every alarming voice that demands your fear. Do not let manipulation rename your peace as passivity. Calm is not emptiness. Calm is often readiness. Calm is a heart no longer wasting all of its strength on imagined disasters. Calm is discernment learning to stay in the room. Calm is wisdom refusing to be bullied by spectacle. The person who learns how to keep their center in noisy times becomes difficult to deceive, difficult to derail, and difficult to convince that their life belongs to panic. That is a blessing in itself. There may come a moment very soon when you realize that what you were asking for was already beginning within you. The confidence, the steadiness, the renewed sense of worth, the ability to say no without guilt, the courage to believe that something good can still happen for you, the grace to stop carrying everyone else's chaos as though it were your calling. These things do not always appear with trumpets. Sometimes they arrive like morning light, gradual but undeniable. Then one day, you look around and realize the room is brighter, your breathing is easier, and your future no longer feels like an enemy. If this message speaks to you, you can mark the moment in a simple, grounded way. You can pause and say, Amen. You can write a quiet note to yourself. You can pray. You can breathe. You can choose one sentence that you want to carry forward, such as, "Peace is allowed to find me," or, "My next chapter does not need fear to begin." The power is not in performing for others. The power is in choosing what kind of voice you will let shape your inner life. A sincere moment of reflection can become a deeper turning point than 100 loud declarations made only because someone frightened you into repeating them. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are not too late to become who you were meant to become. Life is rarely as linear as people pretend. There are detours that teach resilience, pauses that create depth, and endings that prepare the heart for better beginnings. You may not understand every part of your path yet, but you do not need to despise the road simply because it has been difficult. Some paths become holy, not because they were easy, but because the person walking them kept choosing truth, courage, and grace anyway. That matters more than perfection ever could. Hold on to this. Your life does not need a threat attached to it to be meaningful. Your faith does not need panic to be real. Your future does not need impossible guarantees to be worth believing in. What you need is steadiness, honesty, openness, and the willingness to keep moving with trust, even when you do not have every answer. That is enough for today. That is enough for this breath. That is enough for this moment. And sometimes enough is where abundance begins, because enough is what allows the heart to stop striving and start receiving what peace has been trying to place there all along. So as this message comes to a close, let it leave you lighter, not more burdened. Let it leave you calmer, not more afraid. Let it leave you thoughtful, not manipulated. Let it leave you with the sense that something good can grow from here, even if it grows quietly at first. The chapter ahead may hold healing. It may hold reconnection. It may hold provision, wisdom, favor, and a deeper sense of identity. It may hold the kind of grace that helps you rebuild from within. Whatever arrives, meet it with a steadier heart. You have already come too far to hand your story back to fear now. Your life is still unfolding. Your voice still matters. Your spirit is still capable of renewal. The light around your future has not gone out. Even now, beneath the noise, there is a quieter current carrying you towards greater clarity. Let yourself notice it. Let yourself trust it a little more. Let yourself become the kind of person who no longer needs to be terrified into faith, because you have learned the sound of peace. You have learned the difference between control and guidance, between spectacle and truth, between pressure and grace. That learning alone can change the direction of an entire life. Walk forward with that. Walk forward gently, but honestly. Walk forward knowing that what belongs to you will not require you to abandon your dignity to receive it. Walk forward knowing that what is truly for you can meet you in truth, patience, and self-respect. Walk forward knowing that healing can be slow and still be real. Walk forward knowing that restoration can begin inside long before it appears outside. Walk forward knowing that even after confusion, delay, heartbreak, and weariness, your story can still turn towards peace. Not because someone threatened you into believing it, but because somewhere deep inside, you finally recognized that hope still lives here. And perhaps that is the real turning point. Not the promise of a number, not the pressure of a countdown, not the noise of a forced reaction, but the quiet moment where you choose to believe that your life is worth treating with care. In that choice, there is strength. In that strength, there is clarity. In that clarity, there is room for grace, direction, and renewal to enter without resistance. Let that be enough for now. Let that be your sign to keep going. Let that be your reminder that even after difficult seasons, the heart can recover its rhythm, the mind can recover its balance, and the soul can recover its sense of purpose. So breathe once more. Let the noise fall back. Let the fear loosen its grip. Let your next step be shaped by peace. You do not need to chase a miracle as though it were running from you. Sometimes the deepest change begins when you become still enough to receive what has been waiting at the door of your life all along. Calm instead of chaos, wisdom instead of confusion, trust instead of dread, and a future that opens not through panic, but through grace. Carry that with you now. Let it settle. Let it stay. Let it help you move into what comes next with a steadier soul and a clearer heart.